Hello and welcome to today's video. This time it's the turn of another Matford Centre toy fair. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so here we are again at Matford Centre. This is Saturday the 15th of February 2025, and yet again, honestly, the last few shows we've been cursed with bad weather, and it was pouring on the way up here, but no such sign of any rain inside the hall. And by the time myself and my friends had arrived, I brought a few mates along with me. I would say 2/3 of the stall was set up, and the last few finishing touches were being made to the stalls which were in the process of being set up. Lots of familiar faces there. There's my friend John, just there in the hat. And we look at this first stall, which I believe is Lawrence. He's usually just inside the door on the left-hand side. And he always has a good selection of sort of late 70s upwards items, and a fair bit of loose stuff as well. So yeah, a good selection of stuff this time round. And then we're moving to the stall fair with. This stall had yeah, some really nice vintage military stuff. Once again, sadly, I'm not joined by my friend Andy. A lot of you are familiar with Andy joining me on these commentaries. Andy's been unwell, so we do wish him the best. So get well soon, Andy, so you can be back at the toy fairs and doing these commentaries with me. But yeah, this was a nice, interesting stall. And I do try and tend to focus on the stalls with more vintage stuff, sort of 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s for what I would call modern toys, and vintage as in, you know, the really old Corgi and Dinky and other diecasts. What I don't tend to focus on a lot is the toy and train stuff, the train in particular, because that's just something which, you know, I don't know a lot about. If it's a table full of really old train pieces, I generally do film it because that is interesting to me. But if it's more modern stuff, modern diecasts, doesn't really mean a lot to me. So I tend to steer clear of those stalls. So not every single stall has been filmed here, but like a lot of these shows nowadays, there tends to be something for everybody of all ages. Lots of Lego, there's retro gaming nowadays. You've got the traditional die-cast stuff, the toy and train, sort of more like traditional toys, tin plate, things like that. There was a few stalls with Britain stuff. Now, you've got what I would call the really early, like pre-war Britons, and then you've got sort of these 50s up, which is where you start to see the plastic accessories and bits and pieces come in. This was a double, in fact, may have even been a triple stall, just Britain's exclusive. Absolutely phenomenal to see. And if you are into Britons, I've got a very early catalogue from the 1930s, which I shall show you at the end of this video, because it's something that I own, which I'm now looking to sell on. Here's another stall with sort of more sort of 80s, 90s, 2000s stuff, just what we were talking about. And a few bits on this stall, like these Joe's Dread items, I don't ever remember seeing those. They're like sort of carded key rings on those. Bendables and the early 90s Star Wars, which is, let's be honest, everywhere at the moment. Seems to be an awful lot of that around. This store had some interesting bits and pieces. Not all in tip-top shape, but there's some good stuff there. I quite fancied that Sterling Moss Rally game there. That was pretty nice. Little Weeble set there. I don't remember that one. With a cannon. It was like a clown's set, a Weeble clown set. And then they had a box of top trumps. Now, you don't often see these at the toy fairs, and there's about 4 sets that I would always pick up if I saw them. The ones I remember as a kid are those ones, the really small boxes, not these bigger ones. It's those ones there, the slightly smaller boxes. They're the ones I remember having as a kid. And I went through the box looking to see if there was any that I could remember to jog my memory, but I didn't see any that I thought, oh, yeah, I'd love to get that one back again. My favourites are the two horror ones that they did, but they did a Marvel superheroes one and a Doctor Who Top Trump set as well, and they're all pretty good. And this is an example of a stall with, I would say more modern sort of lorries and diecast, which doesn't particularly interest me, so I don't tend to dwell on these much. But at the end of the stall, he had a little plinth with some diecasts on, which we'll take a closer look at in a sec. And here they are. And if there was one thing that I thought was in short supply at this show, but there was plenty of it at Shepton, were these diecasts, classic diecasts. There was some that I was particularly looking for, and there was only one store which had them on, and they were a tiny bit more expensive than I wanted to pay. But thankfully I didn't come home empty-handed. I did get a few bits and pieces, which is always good. A few recarded Star Wars there, a few bits and pieces. Yeah, a few bits of mask we saw at this show today. Lots of accessories. This is what I would call the really early Britain soldiers. Very, very nice. And toy trains and dioramas and the usual sorts of things that you would see. A few Dalek rollerkins there, which are an unusual sight at a toy fair. And it looks like the whole set of the Matchbox Disney line there, the carded ones. And lots of loose train stuff as well. But there was some box vintage on offer. Now this I'd not seen before. It's British, Chad Valley, and $6 Million Man slide projector set, and that roll at the back was all the slides. So it's complete, but the box was a little bit VG. It was missing one end flap as well, but unusual to see. But there is one item that I'd never knew existed, a Batman item, which we'll see in a minute, which on reflection may have been worth picking up, but I'll let you be the judge of that when we see it. Yes, this is more the modern stuff, so don't really cover much of that, but this is a box of these figures, like £1 each. Wendell figures, Wendell, £1. Now there were a couple of stalls with Hot Wheels. There was one stall, I don't think I'd ever seen so many Hot Wheels. There must have been 4 stalls covered in it. It was incredible. Some of the re-released Chipperfields and what have you there. Some nice early sports cars. They do look very nice when they're all in a run. And this stall specialised in sort of motorsport, and they had some signed pictures and things like that, which I thought was really interesting, as well as diecasts. But it was all generally sort of motorsport, motor racing, Le Mans and Formula One and what have you. Nicely presented stuff. A bit more modern stuff. Lego as well, of course. Lego always seems to be a popular find. My friend John, who I hadn't seen for a little while, he had a couple of big tubs that he sold fairly early on. And this store's always got some interesting items on it as well, old as well as new. Farm animals. Yes, this was the mammoth Hot Wheels store. I think it must have been 4 stores. It just went on forever. I couldn't believe it. But I mean, if you're a Hot Wheels collector, wow, and you just see it goes off into this and around the corner where they were still putting more stock out. So absolutely astonishing run of Hot Wheels there. Always plenty of loose at these shows, generally speaking. Some interesting early Hornby train accessory sets there. Really, really nice. And not overly expensive. I think that's what they're finding with vintage train stuff now. Is that the people who are potentially collecting it are sadly no longer with us, and the prices are coming down. And we've definitely seen that in the world of diecast toys. There's a little bit of a revival, I would say, on the back of stuff like the Corgi Model Club, but at the same time, overall, the people picking this stuff up, there's less people getting into the hobby. Yet there's more people looking to sell their collections. So consequently, prices are coming down. So if you're a collector just getting into it, it's a great time to be picking this stuff up. There's lots and lots of bargains to be had. I thought this store was beautifully presented, and the prices to me seemed very, very reasonable indeed. Always look at Electroset stuff when I come across it. And obviously some of this was similar to what we'd seen at Shepton just a few weeks back, so it was the same stalls with a few new bits and pieces added to it. And here's the bit, look, a Batman tie, £30. Very, very unusual indeed. There it is again, that green tie there. Not something you come across very often. That was probably worth £30 in all honesty. It's 60s by the look of it. Probably worth at least twice that. More bits and bobs on this store. And a few comics and things like that. This is my friend John's store. He was next to Bob. And, 2 long-time collectors selling off their bits and pieces. And we're hoping for John to do a guest slot on the channel quite soon with some of his interesting bits that he's looking to clear. So look out for that. And here's Bob with a mountain of Action Man stuff. And this is Retro Revival. This is a new retro game shop that's opened in Torquay. If you're in the area, definitely go down and see them and give them your support. 80s and 90s toys plus lots and lots of retro games. So you will find something down there if retro is your bag, as you can see. Plenty of it. Yes, loads of good stuff on that stall. More vintage figures. Britons aplenty. There was a lot of Britons at this show, actually. It was a good show for that. We're just walking along the aisles here. I was quite conscious that because it was bad weather, a bit like Shepton a few weeks back, that they were going to open the doors quite early, so to save people queuing in the rain. So I was zooming through the stalls, hopefully without moving too fast to make you all seasick. This is Vintro, and we saw him at Shepton as well. Often got some really fantastic 80s and 90s toys. That's their specialty. But yeah, some very cool stuff there. There always is at that stall. It's always packed and there's always interesting stuff to see, if that's your era. Lots of Bruce Lee figures there. I hadn't seen so many ever, I don't think. Stall full of Bruce Lee. Interestingly, from those 90s and early 2000s, the bubbles started to yellow. You do see that on the old figure here or there. And look at all this mask stuff. Don't often come across that. All right, it's been played with, it's been opened, but it's still nice to see. Box of comics under there and more railway stuff. Lego, lots of Harry Potter Lego. This store had loads of like larger figures on it, as well as other more 80s, 90s and 2000s stuff. And when you think now, the toy fairs are encompassing basically 100 years worth of toys, because you are seeing stuff from the 1920s right up to the 2020s. So yeah, it's 100 years worth of toys. Once again, this stall is always outstanding, very, very reasonably priced, and just full of great stuff, which is clearly marked. It's all you can ask for. Look at it. It's brilliant. Every single piece you can see is priced and ready for sale. It's brilliant. Many a dealer could learn a thing or two from these chaps. Just saying. And here we are. It's my friend Paul and his brother. A bit of a mixture of a stall today. A few bits of everything. A fair few wrestlers at this show, surprisingly, for some unknown reason. There's quite a lot of wrestling figures. Once again, a stall of more modern stuff. A big old line of Thomas Tank Engine diecast, Matchbox diecasts. Look at them all. Another interesting store with interesting stuff on it, real vintage stuff. And not expensive, really not expensive. This, I believe, is a Welsh Sid store. I think Sid had the best selection of vintage diecasts at the entire show this time round. I think you'll agree with that. Head and shoulders over everyone else there who was there this time. A really good selection of stuff. A couple of trays of Matchbox, as is normal for him. Some later window box Corgi, and his catalogues as well. Lots to see on that stall. And by now the crowds were very much in, and it was getting very busy, so I had to time my moments as best I could and film what I could in between the crowds. But I'm working my way back towards the door now. A few more interesting stalls to see on the way. Yep. Certainly was the show for Britons this time round. Lots of old sets for offer. And this dealer had just finished setting up when I got to him, and he had a really nice selection, as he always does, and I was able to actually find a few vintage Matchbox off him at this time. He pointed out this was nice early tin plate BP lorry there. Very, very nice indeed. I think he wanted near a couple of hundred for that one. Didn't come with a box. And he wanted to point out this Triangle lorry as well. Absolutely immaculate, with box as well. Beautiful condition. I think that was closer to 200, that one. Something like that. But they were a couple of recent additions that he'd had in. And a little car he's customised for our mutual friend Scott at the Sixpenny Tap, the world's greatest brewery. And yeah, I pulled out a few out of that actually. This is very, very nice. This was a Toy Hunter UK with a shop display, a Britain shop display. I said it was the show for Britons. A shop display for Britons. They're absolutely astonishing. I didn't ask what price was on it, but it's all, you could almost say it's unique. How many have survived? It can't be many. But there it is. If you're interested, toyhunteruk.co.uk is the place to go. And this final store here is our friend Julian from Final Frontier in Plymouth. He was a little bit later to the show today, so he just finished setting up by the time I got round to almost leaving, which was perfect timing. With his usual mix of groovy stuff. Excellent. Okay, so as is customary, I like to go through and just show you what I picked up at this show. And I got 3 Matchbox models this time round. This was number 31. 31C in fact, the Lincoln Continental. This one dates from 1964. This one's got a little a vintage price there, 2 shillings on the back, but I don't mind that. That's sort of how I'll have that one displayed, and that's absolutely fine. So I was very, very pleased with that one. Also from 1964 is a bit of a farming memorabilia here. It's just a little tipping truck here, and this was all off the same dealer. And this one comes with the 3 barrels still on the sprue there, which is as mint as you're really likely to ever want it, isn't it? You know, so that was really nice. Also from 1964. Then the last one was from 1968. It's the DAF or DAF tipper container truck. It's that one there, and this is what he looks like in the flesh. Now this one is got a little bit of wear on it. I'm going to need to give that a bit of a clean along the top, but apart from that, he's fine. It's absolutely fine for me. It's one I haven't got any of these 3 at all, either loose or boxed. So these are all brand new sort of additions to my Matchbox collection. So I was really, really pleased to get those from the same dealer. He said anyone buying Matchbox off him today was going to be given these 3, and it's 3 catalogues. It's 1989. And once again, these 3 catalogues, they're a little bit later than I would ordinarily pick up. I like the ones right back to the 50s and early 60s. I think they're gorgeous. But this one, these are later. So it's 89. I got the 88 catalogue and the 92 catalogue. I think the dealer had a whole box full of those. So he was just giving them away as freebies to people buying Matchbox, of which he had a lot, on his stall. So that was what I picked up actually at the show, but I've got one more thing to show you right now. So this is a Britain's catalogue. It's a toy catalogue. There we are, Britain's Limited on the side. And this one dates, amazingly, from 1937. And this is one which I am now looking to sell. I actually acquired this one in with a book collection that I bought last year, and I've had a good look through, and I've now decided I would like to sort of sell this one on to another collector. So it's the main catalogue there, and it also has 3 supplements, which is new lines for 1937. Absolutely astonishing, the detail in here. It's just amazing. There's an end range of soldiers, cowboys and Indians with the different sets. New lines for winter, like a catalogue supplemental. And coronation line. So items released for the coronation. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful information if you're a Britain's fan. And then we've got the main catalogue itself. So the outside cover, the buff cover, has got a few like little tears in it, but inside it is as issued with the different sections. So it starts off with the toy soldiers section, and it's got the different sort of areas within it, as you can see. Very, very beautiful indeed. If you're into Britons, then farm series. This is a farm toys. Bulk lines. The zoo series. So just astonishing. I'd say it's probably at least 100 pages in total, at least. The only other one of these I've been able to find online was in about 2008, and it was sold at Bonham's auction house, and it went for about £250 without the supplements that you saw at the start there. Now, I have done a dedicated video looking through this, about 5 minutes long, so I won't dwell on this anymore today. So I shall link to that one. If you're interested in buying this, I'm entertaining offers of £200 or more for this one. That's what I'm looking for this. The catalogue and all the 1937 supplements. So if that's something that might interest you, click on the link on screen right now. So there you go. If you are interested in this one, please drop me an email. My email address is on the screen now. I've also done the dedicated video for you to have a look at, should you want to have a bit more of a longer look through that particular one on screen right now. If you've enjoyed today's video, do please give it the thumbs up. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage toy fair coverage. and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.